Here we go.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Warcraft news. So, it's been another pretty darn busy week on the PTR, doubly so because this time Warcraft 3 has also been data mined. First though, Blizzard sent me 2 virtual tickets to give away, so if you'd like that, then check out the description below for a bit more info.
Yeah.
They'll get you, of course, BlizzCon access plus the virtual items, and then as always, a massive thank you to our patrons over there. We're running a special on top of the regular Priest month. We've redone our first ever print plus another run of bookmarks, so that's all well and good, and with that, let's get into the news. Okay, so the most recent update to the patch 8.3 PTR has brought with it, well, far more Lich King hints. I mean, it really is pretty interesting. This is all on top of us seeing the allied race Death Knight textures last week, plus seeing encrypted voice files that seem to be a conversation between Darian and the Lich King,
Oh, I'm sure that's
which
gonna be
is,
very
again,
cordial.
fairly major. Now, this week we've actually got a little bit more. We have seen 4 new Death Knight Ebon Blade swords that have been data mined from the PTR build. So,
Very
we've got the
interesting.
Unholy, Burning, Freezing, and Crimson Blades of the Ebon Blade.
Wow.
Yeah, Blade of the Ebon Blade is a bit of an awkward name, but
Burning Blade of the Ebon Blade. Well, if you need to buy one, just go to the ATM machine and go, you know, buy one of these from the vendor. It's simple.
still, we've got an Unholy, Freezing, and Crimson one, so that's referring to the 3 existing Death Knight specs.
Of course.
But what about Burning? What's a Burning Blade got to do with the Death Knight? Well, I think it's far more in line with the art design of Bolvar, who of course was consumed by Dragonfire following the Wrathgate.
A fire Death
that's
Knight?
fairly interesting. Now, I hear that you all love it when I reach. And, you know, like, this was almost titled, wow, massive change.
Wow.
Gargantuan class revamps in 9.0.
That would be fucking
well,
crazy.
Number 1, never seen a Burning Death Knight, that's new. Number 2, the Freezing Blade of the Ebon Blade is a 2-handed weapon. Now, Frost Death Knights have dual-wielded one-handers since, since their Legion revamp, and I mean, if we were going to reach even further here, we've seen no substantive class changes in Battle for Azeroth really thus far, and, you know, even though that's with classes being one of the most heavily criticized parts of the game. Now, the thing is, their class designers are clearly still turning up for work in the morning, so, what if we're going to see Legion-like revamps after BFA and 9.0, and maybe we do get a 2-handed Frost back? Who the hell knows? Maybe Blizzard have had a hard look at themselves. Anyway, speculation wildness aside, let's get to something more reasonable. Back to the...
Wouldn't that be fucking hype, dude? If they added a 4th spec for DKs?
Dude.
A 4th spec for DKs.
Oh. It could be like
Blood, dude.
Remember Blood DPS back in Wrath? Heartstrike, dude, have the fucking... Dude, Blood DPS was the best.
It was
shit
awesome,
ever,
man. It was fucking amazing.
Blood DPS, dude.
By the way, Reconnected, thanks a lot for the 250G, man. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll suck your dick after the run. Wow. Thank you so much, dude. That means a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you, dude. I love you.
Lich King. We've also seen a Frozen Throne portal texture. Now, sure, this was along with a bunch of other new portal textures, but it does kind of suggest that we're going to see a bit more action up there at the Frozen Throne in this patch, and then perhaps we'll also see those new portals appear soon on the PTR. So, you might be wondering here, well, what does the Lich King's involvement actually mean for World of Warcraft? Well, I would say the chances are it would tie into a Shadowlands-related expansion. After all, Bumsamdi does tell us that the Frozen Throne is a gateway to the Shadowlands. Hell, the entire Ice Crown area, honestly, it's pretty darn mysterious given the throne being a door to the Shadowlands, the influence of just Yogg-Saron underneath the earth, and his blood literally being used to create all of those structures. There's something pretty wild going on there. So I think we'd have less of a Lich King expansion, and it's more that he would play a pivotal role in the expansion, like, say, Illidan did with the Legion expansion. And
I would be so mad. I would be so... Like, the Lich King is bad. He's bad. Illidan was always, you know, Lich King is bad. Like, I don't want to fight with the Lich King. I am okay with him being a neutral evil. But if he's ever on my side, mad. Iceman bad. Blue Man bad. Like, yes, exactly. He's a bad guy. That's it. I would rather fight with Sargeras, fight alongside Sargeras than with the goddamn Lich King, man. It sounds ridiculous. It's Bolvar? No, it's not Bolvar. It's the fucking Lich King.
That's actually not it for speculative news, because we've also seen references to patch 8.3.5 appear in the data mining. Now, it's basically just some sound files, but their existence does somewhat confirm that patch 8.3.5 is a thing. Well, either that or 8.3.5 content has been moved back into 8.3, but just hasn't been renamed yet by the devs. Now, this isn't really a surprise, though, given the precedent set by Legion with its, I'd say, pretty darn successful epilogue patch. Chances are, you know, we will have dealt with N'Zoth, but the next great struggle in Azeroth will begin to be clear to our heroes. Maybe
I can't get over the fact that N'Zoth... I mean, this is bullshit. This is bullshit right here. Like, I'm sorry. No. Blizzard? No. I don't like this. This dealing with N'Zoth. No, fuck this. Fuck this dumbass shit. Old God got a single patch. Well, it's like, it's not just an old God. Like, Yogg-Saron he was like a pimple that popped out. But N'Zoth is unleashed. He's unleashed. He can do whatever the hell he wants. And like, where the fuck is he, man? Like, N'Zoth, he's not big enough. Like, he should be bigger than Stormwind. Like, we should fight N'Zoth. This is what I think should happen. We fight N'Zoth. We finally get to the last boss, N'Zoth. And he's actually not even a boss. You go into like this massive chamber. It's like the size of fucking like Grizzly Hills. It's like this massive zone. And N'Zoth is so massive and so big, you can't even fit him on your camera screen. And you fight against him. And it goes on for like a minute. And he just slowly kills different people in your raid. And like, you can tell, like, and you can't even do damage to him, right? You hit him for like 1 and 2 damage and he has like 8 trillion health or something like that. So it'd just be impossible. And he just kills everybody in the raid. And it's just like, it's basically like, remember back whenever you had to rescue everybody from like fucking the tree thing, and like you had to rescue 6,000 people or 500 people or something, you only rescue 5. I feel like that's how the fight with N'Zoth should go. That'd be fucking awesome. So we should lose? Yeah, absolutely, you should lose. You should lose. N'Zoth is incredibly powerful. The Heart of Azeroth is not powerful enough to stop N'Zoth. I don't think.
Gar will return from Karazhan and have new information. Maybe Vol'jin will return. Now, do note that by the time 8.3.5 is announced and we actually get to play it, well, BlizzCon will have already happened, and we will, of course, know what the next expansion will be.
Yeah.
And because of this, I really doubt that 8.3.5 is going to be all that cryptic. I mean, we've even seen, say, the datamine dialogue between Leria and Turalyon regarding Sylvanas. Now, combine that with what Tyrande and her Sentinels are up to, and all this Lich King stuff, I think we've pretty obviously got overlapping plot lines here that I think would at least be pretty interesting. Personally, like I suspect that we're going to end up dealing with death sooner rather than later. Now, given, say, Xal'atath being in space and the looming void threat that was teased in 7.
If they call it that, I'm going to be mad. Like, that's such a stupid damn name. Into the void! Into the void! Like, I didn't like Legion either. I didn't like Legion, Into the Void. The rest of them I thought were actually fine. Actually, I didn't like Battle for Azeroth either. I thought the name was stupid. I remember whenever they told us that, I was like, I asked the guy that told me at Blizzard, because like he told me ahead of time, right? Because like we had to know all the information. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, okay. Yeah, that's it. You know.
3. I think a Void expansion pretty much is a given, but I do think that with 8.3 giving us N'Zoth, Blizzard wouldn't want to go straight into a Void expansion. I think they would think it would be overexposing us, like having, say, back-to-back Orc raids through Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor. So, there you go. That's the fun speculation. Let's get into the general patch updates. So, first, I kind of lied. This is a bit speculative. There's a new currency called Echoes of Oblivion. Now, that sounds like a very typical Blizzard name, right? But there is something I would like to point out here. So, here's what happens when Locust Walker saved Leria in 1,000 Years of War. Locust Walker opened a void rift for them to escape. On the other side was utter nothingness, the void itself. Yeah, utter nothingness. Now, here is a description from Sylvanas' short story, Edge of Night. Sylvanas Windrunner, the oblivion you seek is yours. Here's another one. Then Sylvanas felt herself being pulled away, her senses reeling. Everything disappeared and time stopped. Here's another one. Time was meaningless here. Her whole life seemed not a series of events, but a single instant, a pinpoint flash of consciousness in an infinite void. She saw only darkness. And then finally, the lurking oblivion filled her with terror. Now, I'd also note that she found Arthas's spirit there. So, what if these echoes of oblivion, just as the name of a currency, are kind of a nod to this, well, realm that Sylvanas, Illyria, and Arthas seemingly found themselves in? If so, that would be quite the tease for the next expansion, as that oblivion is the thing that has motivated Sylvanas ever since. Anyway, in other news, let's get down to the real news.
That's what I think that, like, the whole, like, her master of being death and everything is, like, kind of ties into. Think, like, Sylvanas, you know, how you have people that get on drugs and then they have, like, some fucking out-of-body experience and then they, you know, buy a, you know, Volkswagen van, and they drive around the country, or they become preachers at a church, or, you know, they just go fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like that's kind of what happened with Sylvanas.
Raid testing has continued with Rathian, Maut, Skitra, and Radden being tested. I mean, I'll say one thing, Blizzard are not slacking with the raid testing. They've jumped straight into it, and that does bode well for the future. But that said, they would have to be pretty diligent with their testing, because this is a 12-boss raid. It's actually the largest raid that we've got since Warlords of Draenor's Hellfire Citadel. So yeah, there's a lot of testing to do. Thankfully though, Blizzard are actually also going to be implementing a boss skip system that will work in line with how previous ones have. So if you kill a boss 4 times, then you'll be able to unlock the boss's skip. Overall, I'd say sounds good, makes sense, so let's move on to assaults. We've seen more variants of the assaults on the PTR. Now, I was deep in my writing hole, writing the Sylvanas trilogy that we're sort of mostly the way through now, and while I was doing that, Wowhead were actually looking at the PTR, funny enough, and they made a great breakdown of one of the Oldham assault variants. Now, as we covered in our first assault video, the assaults clearly happen within a marked area on the map.
I'm not very excited about the assaults. I think that they're just going to be just like the other assaults that we've had. They're going to be the same thing. Goku, I mailed you the gold. I mailed you the gold about 50 minutes ago, so it should be in your bank, and I have already done that, so you should be good. I sent you the other 500 that I owe you.
And the one that WoW had covered was in some ways different to the one that I played, but in a lot of ways I think would feel the same, because it ultimately did boil down to just filling up a bar by killing enemies and killing NPCs. And do note that this is not like world quests from previous assaults, this is just like a sort of a Mechagon style zone-wide progression bar. Overall, I'd say Wowhead's article is great. They did a great job of pointing out the side events that you might want to do for rep, things like the Amthet Fleet, the Unearthed Keeper, the Virnal.
It's like all of these things are cool, but the issue with all of them that it just kind of ties back into, that we can never escape from, is the overall meaninglessness of the events. It's just that the events are just simply meaningless. I don't know really what else to say about it beyond that. Like it just, like all of these items and everything, it's just like, I feel like people don't really care. And I think that's the main core problem, is that people don't feel like the excitement and, you know, the motivation to go out and complete all this content, because it's just turned into being such a formulaic experience. You go through and you do the same stuff every single time and nothing ever really changes. Let's go. We're going to make your helmet here. You're going to trade me 100 gold too for it. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it's like the B mount, people care about it 1 week and then it dies. Well, the B mount is great, and the good thing about the B mount is that it's going to be relevant in a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. But the problem is that, like, most players are not motivated by cosmetic rewards. Cosmetic rewards are only valid for people that have already become invested in the game. They don't make you invested in the game. Cosmetic rewards are not, they're not intrinsically good at creating investment in the same way that something like getting gear is. And I think that's the main problem that Blizzard has, is that they don't understand the fact that, like in Classic, the gear itself gets you invested. The gear makes you want to play the game more, and it makes you like really invested in succeeding and getting everything like that done. And now I feel like people don't really give a fuck anymore. And Classic, if you play Classic, people really care about gear. They really care about the rewards, and there's a lot less of them. So I don't know why there's not more of that in the game now. I think that really needs to happen. Only tried WoW Classic for a little bit, won't invest much time in it. Here we are weeks later, hasn't stopped since. Well, people, like, the thing is about WoW Classic is that I feel very motivated to, by the way, thank you, Azurkite. Congratulations on your fucking helmet. That's awesome. I feel good playing the game. I think that's really the main thing. I feel like I'm working towards something. If I play BFA, like, that's cool. But again, like, my motivations in BFA are also unique because I'm not, you know, there aren't a lot of people like me that are just farming out toys, mets, mounts, and transmogs and stuff. Like, most people don't care about that kind of shit. So you can't apply, like, you know, my motivations for playing the game to everybody else because they're not as invested as I am. And I think that they need to always playing catch up in BFA. Yeah, basically.
Front, Beacon of the Sun King, the Solar Puzzle, these things are giving rep, so it incentivizes thorough play there. And overall, when you just step back and take a meta look here, well, it seems like Blizzard's plan is for there to be maybe 3 or so variants of each zone in existence. Cool. Maybe that's giving us a total of 6 different assaults between the 2 zones of Uldum and the Vale. Maybe it's more. And then, of course, you've got to add to that the N'Zoth invasion version, and, of course, the gameplay with the Lesser Visions and Horrific Visions. And really, with all of that, that's pretty much the patch's gameplay from a sort of a non-group content perspective. Zones. And you know what really is interesting? Like, I think my opinion is still mixed in this. As much as I really do love the solo Horrific Visions, I think they're actually incredible. Well, very good anyway. And I'm actually, like, totally fine with asset reuse. I mean, I think that exploring more of Azeroth and going back to places that you know is a sane thing, a good thing to do in an MMO, but...
I completely agree with that. I think that the way that Legion did their artifact weapons, I thought that was great. The fact that you'd have to go into, like, Ulduar, you'd have to go into other places all around Azeroth. Legion was probably one of the first expansions to really do something, you know, because like in WoD and Mists of Pandaria, like there was nothing that you would really do outside of the main content zones. And I thought Legion did a great job getting players out into the world a little bit more and playing a little bit more than just a current patch. And I think that's great, but also the fundamental problem is that, like, you have to, Blizzard has a problem with motivating players to play the game more. That is, I think, their main, that is what's really holding them back, is that their content is not fundamentally motivating. And if they can fundamentally motivate people, if they can get people to really want to play the game a lot more, that's all they need to do. That's literally it. Just get them in that mindset of wanting to play the game. And in Classic, I log on every day because I want to play the game. And in BFA, I log on every day because I feel like I have to. And it's just fatiguing. And, like, I've really thought about sitting down and writing out, like, you know, a long form, like, essay almost about this, because I think somebody needs to speak out and talk about this. I wish Blizzard would sit down and really talk with people like me. I'm not saying me, I wish they would, right? But talk with people like me, people that have played the game for 15 years, people who have played every avenue of the game. I've played PvP, PvE, pet battles, everything, right? Transmog, raiding, arena, RBGs. I've done everything in this fucking game. What is it that the game's lacking? And I think those people can probably provide a lot of really good insight into what makes them motivated. And having a conversation with that person might at least allow them to understand what they did in their game at some point in time to cause that much investment with that individual. And I hope that with Classic WoW out, Blizzard can see how more isn't always more. Like, Classic WoW doesn't really have a lot of content, but people still want to play it because it's rewarding.
A lot of these things do just boil down to filling up a bar. Will the events just be static and people will kind of know what's up anyway, so there won't really be that much mystery? I kind of think that the genuine gameplay innovation here, I think it could be happening with the Visions, but I do suspect that this world content is more just the best they could come up with, sort of given the restraints of patch 8.3. Indeed, I think it's pretty clear to me that the scope of 8.3 is primarily dictated by the production requirements of the next expansion. That's, I mean, it's certainly an interesting situation. I'll say this, it's not necessarily one that I'm blasting Blizzard for. I mean, it's obviously a content reuse patch. I suspect that this is likely the smartest use of the resources that they have. I think they might be able to tie off Battle for Azeroth, giving people gameplay content. I think it'll serve the needs of the next expansion's development, and it's not going to leave us with a Warlords of Draenor-like content drought. Certainly, it's threading a needle from Blizzard's perspective, but if we were to see a December patch launch, January raid, and then an August expansion, I think that would be a pretty
so
darn
cool.
good managing of affairs.
I'd love that.
Next up, though, let's talk about Warcraft 3 Reforged. There's been a lot of data mining. Data mining that's... It's been interesting to go through, and I'll say this, I really can see how much of an artistic challenge this game must have been for them.
Yeah.
Warcraft 3's graphics were very intentional, right? They were designed to work for the low polygon character models available at the time, and the whole game's art style was just developed around that limitation, and really the same goes...
It's like you have 7 triangles, and you have to come up with a person that comes out of that. It's like, all right, here's 7 triangles. Now turn that into an orc warlord riding a wolf. For
World of Warcraft. Now, with World of Warcraft
Blizzard's
and
done a great job
Reforged, though,
with it, honestly.
you're seeing them go in different directions in the future. World of Warcraft advanced the, I'd say, original formula, leaning very heavily in Blizzard's masterful texture work to deliver a game that really does look incredible in my view. Reforged, though, well, I think its buildings look really good and are within the Blizzard style, but its characters seem, well, a bit too realistic. And I've got to admit, like, when you see them in context, I think they're really quite jarring. Something's just not working there for me. I think in isolation they look pretty cool, but I mean, it's odd. So as far as we're aware, the brunt of the artwork here for this project has been done by a Malaysian studio, one of the ones...
I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off on that judgment. I think that what Bellier is saying makes sense, but I'm going to hold off on that judgment. Is camera dead? Okay. Just give me this. I don't know why my camera's been dying so much recently. I have no idea. Usually it doesn't do that, but, you know, we're good now. Anyway, so I don't really know exactly what it's going to look like, but hopefully as time goes on, we'll see what happens. Yeah, 10K camera. No, it was only 4K, okay, guys? No, let's run. It was only 4K. I didn't waste $10,000 on this. Maybe I'll have to buy a second one, and then I will.
That helped out on StarCraft Remastered. Now, this, like, outsourcing, that is industry standard overall, but when I look at these assets, it's like they're great in isolation, but they're a bit strange in a scene, and I think combine that with a clear delay in Warcraft 3 Reforged, and we've got a recipe for confusion. I mean, Reforged was announced with, like, Blizzard, like, doing pre-orders with a summer 2019 release date. That didn't happen. Of course, August 31st is technically the end of the summer, so something clearly has been going on here behind the scenes. And I think when you look at the assets up close, I mean, the buildings look really great, but the units themselves, I think they're just far too realistic. Great in isolation, but viewed in scene, I actually think they've departed from the look of Warcraft 3 and just Warcraft in general. I mean, to be honest with you, they kind of look like Raid Shadow Legends characters. You know, that mobile game that's just on every YouTube video these days? I mean, I probably get about 3 emails a day from Raid Shadow Legends, so I've seen that bloody thing too much. Gonna be an ad. But overall, though, it's just...
I really think Bellior missed a great opportunity right there. Like, he had such a good opportunity and be like, yeah, just by the way, like this other guy, yeah, he ruined the opportunity. Dude, that would have been the best segue ever. You just promoted him? I don't care. But, like, overall, I can see what he's saying. I actually kind of... it does feel maybe a little bit busy, but I think that's also, I mean... we don't really have a lot else to go off of in terms of, like, RTS games nowadays. I mean, like, the biggest RTS game nowadays, I'm pretty sure, is probably still StarCraft 2. Like, who the fuck else even plays any of these other games? I think there's a few other ones that have come out recently, but I've never really gotten into it. Like, Command & Conquer is dead. You know, like, Warcraft franchise is dead. Total War game is, you know, basically dead. Age of Empires 2? Yeah, and so you're either going to play a game from 2001 or a game from 1998. You know, you're going to have to go back in time by a pretty good fucking margin to play this again. That's my whole point.
Just a strange situation. I've got to imagine here that there's been, like, basic art oversight, but the Blizzard hasn't committed that much manpower to the project in terms of just getting the art assets made. I think that's maybe what it initially was. Maybe they've had to change that. I just kind of imagine that it's just the classic games team sort of handling the coding in-house and the assets externally. And I think when you compare the readability between this, Warcraft 3, and StarCraft 2, I think you can see that the Blizzard-led games are just a little bit more readable when it comes to the gameplay. So overall, to me, I mean... it does look like it's missing out on the Blizzard quality mark. I'll say that much, but again, it's early days. It could...
I will agree that it doesn't look like a Blizzard game as much.
change. Now that said, I will say this, narratively I'm interested in the project. It's going to serve as World of Warcraft's basis, and it's going to be in line with the Chronicle era lore, so we're going to see some characters have expanded roles, and I think that could be very interesting within the context of the current game, especially if we get, say, more old god hints when we're going through Azul Narub with Arthas, right? That could be pretty
really
interesting. Seeing more characterization of Jaina, especially Sylvanas as well, and generally just, you know, some nods to modern lore. Maybe we get some hints about the Titans being less than pure good. Now that said, I think it might be a bummer to those who just want a pure Warcraft 3 experience, and I mean, I totally do get that. I admit that messing with the formula is risky business. Still though, there is the potential for them to do something cool with it, and I think I'd be particularly interested in new campaigns. I mean,
I actually would prefer them to do, I would prefer them to create new content for Warcraft 3. I just feel like the difference between like Warcraft 3 and like Warcraft 3 Reforged and like BFA and Classic WoW in my mind is that you can still go back and play Warcraft 3 if you want. Like you can go back and play it. Like Classic WoW, you can't go back and play it unless you want to go play on a private server or something. So you still have that old game. So I think it's completely restrictive, and it's like it's very narrow-minded to want Warcraft 3 Reforged to be the exact same as Warcraft 3. And like, you know, Reign of Terror, I think it was, like, that's what it's called, right? Something like that. And so I think the second was Tides of Darkness, and then there's the Frozen Throne. I would really like to see the game actually, you know, change things up a little bit. And not really change things up, but in like a major way, like, oh, well, Arthas is a good guy now, but make it more in line with the Warcraft lore. And they could even use Warcraft 3 storylines to create content and narratives that people can use in World of Warcraft later on. Like, this is a really big opportunity for them to do this. And I think that also it's being sold as Warcraft 3 Reforged. And, you know, if you reforge an item, you take the mastery and you turn it into crit. It's two different things. And I actually really like that Blizzard is taking this direction with Warcraft 3. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys agree or not? New campaign. There's a big-ass cockroach on the wall. No, he's not. That's not a cockroach. Everything's good. Just a minute. Yeah, we're fine. Retcons without time travel stupidness? Well, the reason is because they retconned the game already. Like, they've already retconned the game in a really big way by adding in the Chronicle and then kind of clarifying, that's what they're saying, clarifying a lot of the changes that they made with the lore. So I'm actually completely okay with this. I think that Blizzard's making the right decision. With World Editor, there'll be tons of fan-made campaigns. Well, I'll be real. I'm not particularly excited about playing fan-made campaigns. I want to actually just play the Blizzard content. But I could see other people that would enjoy that, like a Lich King, a Frozen Throne campaign or something like that. That'd be really cool.
Going to suggest Blizzard a way to earn more money from me, and it's pretty much this. Like, I'd pay money for custom campaigns that were, you know, scripted by Blizzard, designed by Blizzard, with voice acting, little cutscenes, you know, things like the Troll Wars, the Wars of the Shifting Sands. Those things would be really cool. And Warcraft 3 Reforged, if they can pull it off right at the base level,
so if they had like $5 DLC campaigns, I mean, it's a one-time, like, no. It won't be $5. Well, I'm just putting in a number. So, is there anybody saying no besides the fact that they just don't want to spend money for it? Because if that's why, okay, that's fine. I feel like that's probably the biggest reason why people are saying no, is they're like, well, fuck this, I don't want to spend money on the game. And I get that, it makes sense. I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel that way, but I don't necessarily think that's something that it's buy to play. Yeah, I mean, I think a game that's buy to play, if you have like continuous content coming out for it, it's the same as an expansion, basically. Like, if you buy the Frozen Throne for Warcraft 3, you're basically buying more content for the game that changes things up a little bit, and it seems like that's basically the same thing as a DLC campaign, but just on a smaller scale. We're not having enough content, they keep rolling stuff out, so complain. Yeah, I think so too. It'd be okay. No to $5 DLC because Blizzard will abuse it. Okay, so it's just like a paranoid thing. Like, I get that. I can see why you feel that way. But still, I mean, I think this is actually a really good idea that Belluor has.
Could be a really good way for Blizzard to, well, quite simply, tell some of those stories and also make a quick buck, which seems like a win-win for us and them. But anyway, there you go. That's it for the Warcraft news. We've got nice little updates on the PTR. Crazy speculation with the Lich King. I know I went a little bit off the rails when I talked about the class stuff. I mean, come on. I've got to if I see two-handed frost and a new type of Death Knight sword. Realistically, though, I'm thinking that they're probably just like starter weapons for new Death Knights when the allied races get to be Death Knights. And I mean, for that, I think it's pretty simple. Something's going to happen. The Lich King's going to come in. He's probably going to be like, yo, dudes, I'm going to raise up some new Death Knights for you, and we'll probably be mostly buddy-buddy. Maybe Talia will be involved. It could be pretty interesting.
Cool.
I mean, I do have a crazy theory for Arthas, and I've got a theory for how they can make Arthas return that's sort of in line with what I said there about Sylvanas and Illyria seeing that void, and Arthas also being sort of lost within that void, but that's definitely one I need to think a little bit more on, because right now, it is just a harebrained theory. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought about the things down below. If you'd like the chance of winning a BlizzCon 2019 virtual ticket, then check out the link down below. Cheers. Okay. I'll see you next time.
All right. Belluor news. Listen, why are you spamming? It's annoying. All right, let me read the rest of it. Salty Jenkins, 1,000 bits. Appreciate that a lot. I feel like achievements in BFA are meaningless, while achievements in Classic have a lot of meaning. If I get Hand to Rag in Classic, a lot of people will hear about it. If I get an item in BFA or achieve a high rank PvP title, not many will know. Well, yeah, of course, because the community is more disconnected, and it's not like it's not connected in the same way. Cinematic for defeating N'Zoth is already up on Wowhead. We basically, I saw that. I saw it, Dion. Then Magni, every old guy is defeated. Azeroth is cleansed. It's just another chapter of Blizzard for shit writing. Well, they've done a lot of good job. Them destroying Darth Vader's statues is moving shit on Anakin's story by making Palpatine return. Maybe Max, I'm not sure. So I'm turning in quest to Fandral Sagrealm, and he says, speak quickly, I have important matters to attend to, and then he proceeds to just stand there. What the fuck? Well, he has to keep feeding Malfurion that poison mushroom shit, and that way he doesn't come out of the sleep. I'll look at Wowhead real quick, okay? People want me to take a look at this, and I'll get into it, all right? Deathwing is the next Heroes of the Storm hero. What